my name is Haley with North Star Goldens, and I just am going to do a brief demonstration of the training that Hannah has had. I hope you can bear with me today. I'm on my own cameraman. I'm doing my own recording here. But we're going to go ahead and go through. I'll give you a rundown of what the training program is all about and what you can expect. And we're going to demonstrate her obedience commands and her manners for you and talk a little bit about leash training and house training, and we'll just go from there. So first of all, the training program can be broken down into 5 main areas. There's socialization, house training, leash training, obedience commands, and manners. And by far a bulk of the time that goes into these puppies are the socialization, house training, and leash training. But a lot of what I'm going to be showing you here today is going to be the obedience commands and the manners. And I'm going to go ahead and start with the manners. The first of her manners, and I'm going to demonstrate here for you, is that she's expected to hold a stay before she's released from any kind of a doorway. So getting out of her crate, for example, going in and out of your home, going in and out of gates, she's always expected to wait for your verbal release before she's allowed to come through. Okay, good girl. And okay is the release word, and I say it in kind of a cheerful, upbeat tone of voice, but that lets her know that she's released and she can come out. But if you maintain that checkpoint all the time with going in and out of doors and going in and out of, getting in and out of her crate and gates, that's going to go a long ways just to help establish your relationship with her as her leader. She's looking to you for permission to do those things. Good girl. And it's the same thing with food and meal times. This is her food. Sit. Anytime she eats, she's expected to sit and stay and wait for your verbal release before she's allowed to eat. Okay. Another thing that we do here, and I really recommend that families continue to do with all dogs, is make a habit of, while she's eating, put your hand down in her food bowl and either slip her a little treat or just simply take it away and ask for another sit, stay. Sit, stay. Okay, and the reason we do that is to protect from her developing any kind of a sense of protective aggression or resource guarding, because we usually don't have any kind of a reason to put our hand in our dog's food bowl while they're eating, and so we never do that. But then we get really kind of shocked and surprised when, like, a baby or a toddler gets growled at when they approach a dog while she's eating. So to prevent that, you just condition her to anticipate seeing a hand or a person approach her food bowl while she's eating, rather than feeling like she needs to be guarding against it, or rather than feeling threatened by it. So manners, another part of manners, and being a retriever, obviously retrieving comes very natural to her, and she loves to chase. Hannah. But you always want her to release things to you on command and actively open her mouth and give you whatever it is she has. Hi. Go ahead. Good girl. Drop it. Good. And the command I use is drop it. I simply take a hold of it, and then I ask her to drop it, and I want her to open her mouth and release it to me rather than having to pull it out of her mouth. I'm going to wait until she gets a hold of it there. You are on one today, aren't you? Hannah. Ready? Good girl. I'm going to grab a rope. Drop it. Good girl. manners too, we've really spent a lot of time conditioning her mouth and making sure she has a very soft mouth, which she does. And you always want to expect her to use her lips and her tongue to take food and toys and treats and stuff from your hand very, very softly, as opposed to using her mouth or her teeth and catching a hold of some fingers or something. So if she ever gets grabby for whatever reason, just ask her to say gently, and expect her to be very, very soft with her mouth, which I don't think you should have any problem with that. She has a very, very soft mouth. Good girl. You want to play with that, huh? So another one of her manners is I want her to sit automatically for a greeting. Basically, as a default behavior, whenever she approaches me, good girl, when she doesn't know what else to do, I just want her to plant herself, and that does a couple things for us. It plants her, it gets her sitting down so she's not wiggling all around our feet, and it also, when her butt goes down, her eyes come up to us, and then she's focused on us. Then you can follow up with, affection or commands or food or whatever it is you're doing. But that's another big thing, just a habit thing, that if you can get in the habit of always asking for that sit whenever she approaches you, it's going to help prevent her from learning to jump up on you and jump up on kids. And it's also going to just contribute to that leadership bond, where she sees you as the leader and she feels like she has a job and she has a role when she's around you, and it kind of really helps to establish that respect. So whenever she approaches me, I want her to automatically, I'll let her get a drink. I want her to automatically, come here, sit for a greeting, just like that. Good girl, good girl. And then you give her the love and the affection. As far as her manners around children, I really encourage families to encourage children to use toys to play with their puppy and their dog, because that gives the dog something to put their mouth on so they don't have to put their mouth on the child. And that'll really help with keeping her manners just ship-shape. So anyway, that pretty much covers it for her manners. Now I'm going to go into her obedience commands. I'm going to show you come, sit, stay, down, crate, drop it, watch me, and go to bed. Hi, good girl, good girl. Come. Good girl. That automatic sit for a greeting. Good girl. So come, you want to say it in a very chipper, upbeat tone of voice, and come is a lot of times the easiest command for people to kill, and the reason for that is we usually don't call our dogs to come to us. Okay, there's nothing there. We usually don't call our dogs to come to us unless we're doing something that they inherently don't like it's time to leave the park or it's time to quit doing whatever it is she's doing. So very quickly dogs learn to bolt the other direction when they're called to come. So a way to prevent that is I really recommend that people use the rule of 10 to 1, which means call your dog to you 10 times for every one time that you need to, for no other reason than just to give them something that's very enjoyable and rewarding to them. For example, just to give them their dinner, call them to come for their dinner every night, call them to come just for a love and a pet or a nice game of tug or fetch, and then release them. Or on your off-leash walks, once you've developed a level of trust that you can trust your off-leash, call them to come several times just to get a reward for you, and then release them to go play again, and that'll keep your come really strong. Good girl. But on that note, I really recommend that you get a long leash and you keep her on the leash for the first couple of months at least, and make sure that you get lots and lots and lots of successful repetitions before you ever try to take her off leash. And we've had her off leash quite a bit, and she responds very well, but we have an established bond, an established relationship of trust between us, and you need to make sure that you establish that, your own bond relationship and your own relationship of trust with her before you trust her off leash, and then you can avoid having some accidents and some, having her bolt or something like that. And then she learns that she doesn't have to follow through with come. So make sure you use that leash for the first little while especially. So that's come. The second is a sit. And there's 3 hand signals that she's been taught. The first is a sit hand signal. Oops, come on. A little scoop up over the nose, just like that. That's a sit. And if it helps you to remember, that's how she was taught to sit, is we took a treat and we lured her nose up until her butt went down, and then we rewarded her. But that's a sit, right like that. Good girl. The second hand signal is a stay. Sit. Sit. Good. And that's a stop sign, just like this with your hand. Stop sign. Stay. Sit. Okay, good girl. Good girl. And she's got very nice long stays, especially for a puppy, which she still is a puppy. Good girl. And puppies naturally have a very short attention span because of their maturity, but she's really worked on that quite a bit and done really well. So the third hand signal is for down. Always start in a sit, and then make your hand flat, turn it over like this, and then take it to the ground. Down. Good girl. Stay. Okay, good girl. Good girl, yes. And you can see she's got a phenomenal down stay. I could have done it longer. We've worked all kinds of distractions into that, going in and out of the house, in and out of sight, while she's holding a down stay. Good girl. I'm going to wait on that. But your downstay is going to be one of your most useful and practical obedience behaviors. So what I really recommend for families, most people have a natural downtime during the day, usually during the evenings when you either read or watch TV or whatever. And I recommend that families have her bed close and the leash attached to the puppy or to the dog, and you just ask for an extended downstay while you have that downtime. Put her in a downstay on her bed. Your scratch. And then just build that up a little bit at a time. Start with a couple of minutes at a time, and then build that up to 10, 15 minutes. And then, 30 minutes, and you can easily build that up to an hour-long downstay on her bed with heavy distractions within her first year. So that's come, sit, stay, down, down, stay. The next one I want to show you is crate, where she's expected to go into her crate on command. Come on. Crate. Okay, good girl. Just like that. Either point to or tap on the crate and just tell her crate and send her right in, and she goes in. I don't toss anything in there for her. I just let her go in on her own with my voice command. But the crate, I really recommend that you continue to use the crate. It's going to be really, really useful for you. We've spent a lot of time and a lot of care making her very comfortable with the crate, helping her to relax and feel safe in the crate. So for families with small children, I really recommend that if the dog goes into his crate on his own, that he's off limits until he's ready to come out. You know, that nobody goes in after him or bangs on the crate or whatever, because sometimes a dog, just especially a puppy, can be overstimulated or just needs some downtime or some alone time. You know, just like us, we can relate to that. And if we respect that, then that's the best way to keep our dog very mentally and emotionally healthy. Let them have their downtime where they can feel safe. They don't feel like they're going to have anybody coming in after them. Then when they come out, then anyway, then they're good to go with whatever you want to do. But the crate, she's been expected to be quiet and relaxed in the crate for up to 3 hours during the day. And, you know, she's old enough now that that can be extended quite a bit. That's a puppy that's about 16 weeks of age. That's a standard that we hold them to. But she's older now, so she can go longer in the crate during the day. And dogs naturally sleep quite a bit more than we do. They sleep, adult dogs can sleep easily 12 to 16 hours a day. So it's perfectly natural for them to spend time sleeping in their crate. That's not unhealthy for them, as long as they get plenty of time interacting with and being social with you when they're not sleeping in their crate. Anyway, so she's been taught to be relaxed in the crate for up to 3 hours during the day and a full 8 to 10 hours at night without needing a potty break. And she's been doing that reliably and does a really great job. But just make sure you use the crate when you take her home. If you need to take your eyes off her for the first little while, you really need to keep your eyes on her so that you can help establish what the expectations are in your home, because she's going to be in a totally new environment, learning all new things with new people. And so, if you need to take your eyes off her for 15, 20, 30 minutes, just put her in the crate and don't worry about it. It's a no-brainer. If you need to leave the house for a couple hours, just put her in her crate. And then you don't have to worry about coming back to house training problems, to destruction, all the other things that can really be a nuisance. So that's what to expect with the crate. She's been very quiet, very relaxed in the crate. It's very normal upon transition when she goes home with a new family for dogs to cry or bark in the crate the first night or two, even if they've been crate trained here. Just expect that and don't worry about it. Ignore it is the best thing to do, unless she's perfectly quiet until like the middle of the night and all of a sudden she's barking like crazy. She really may need a potty break, and you're going to want to give that to her, because when they do transition and they're acclimating, stress can cause loose bowels, and so she really might need a potty break. But that's a very, very temporary thing while transitioning from one environment to another, but it's something to be aware of. So anyway, so she'll go into her crate on command. And I showed you drop it when she's expected to release things on command. So the next command I'm going to show you is watch me. Okay. Okay. Come on. Good girl. Good girl. Watch me. Okay. Watch me. Watch me. Okay, good girl. So what I'm going for, if you can see, I'm putting treats on the ground and distracting her from me and getting her focused on something else. Watch me. Okay. I want her to break her focus on whatever she's looking at and put her eyes on me. And that's all I'm looking for with watch me, is for her to break her attention and her focus on whatever it's on and focus on me instead. And watch me is a very, very useful command. It can be a life-saving command, if they're headed out into traffic or chasing a cat or something. So it's something you really want to practice several times a day for no reason other than just to follow up with a high-value reward, which usually means food, every single time to keep that really, really solid. And the reason for that is because the way dogs are designed psychologically is that they have a one-track mind. We as people, we can look at one thing and be thinking about something totally different at the same time. Dogs are not capable of that. Wherever their eyes are is 100% where their mind is. So if you have a tool that allows you to be able to get her attention or get her eyes on you very quickly, no matter what, then you've essentially been able to distract her from any distraction. And then you can follow up with a command or whatever. So you really want to keep that sharp. So make sure you follow up with a high value reward several times a day. And we do use food in training. And for the first little while I was training, I really struggled with using food, and I felt like I didn't want to treat spoil the dog. But what I found taking dogs up through advanced obedience is that if you're very, very consistent for about the first 8 to 12 months of their life at using a high value reward like food, and we don't always use food, you know, a lot of times we reward with play, we reward with a toy, with attention and affection. Anytime I'm letting her out of a crate or out of the house or through a gate, I just let that release be the reward. I never use a treat when I do that. But if you always follow up with a high value reward, what you're going to do is you're going to push those behaviors into automatic behaviors to where they become like muscle memory. And they get to the point that when you give the command, her body is going to respond before her mind even has a chance to think about it. And that usually takes a good 8 to 12 months. It's about that first year. And if you're very consistent about doing that, then when they hit that point to when they're just doing it as a muscle memory without even thinking about it, then you can easily phase out of the treats gradually. My personal dog, he gets a food reward maybe once a week anymore, just to kind of say thank you and let him know what's expected. But he still does what's asked of him the first time every time, because it's just an automatic behavior. And also, when they hit a point of maturity, that their relationship with you, you're funny, dog, your relationship with you matures to a certain point, to when they kind of develop a little bit of a sense of ethics, that they just do it because that's what we do and that's what's expected of them. But you really need to support them up to that point, and it takes several hundred repetitions that are rewarded for them to get to that point. So, and what happens is if you try to phase out of that too soon, which most people do, or if you're very inconsistent about rewarding, that you do teach them to have kind of an on and off switch for when you have food and you don't have food. So that's how you can treat spoil your dog to where they won't obey if you don't have food on you, is if you try to just either quit that cold turkey, or you try to phase out of it too soon, which most people do, or you're very predictable about when you are and you are not going to reward. So reward as consistently as possible for those first several hundred repetitions until you've really pushed those behaviors into automatic behaviors. So let's see, we've done come, sit, stay, down, crate, drop it, watch me. I about put her to sleep there during my lecture. Ready? Ready? Good girl. Good girl. Come on. Go to bed. Go to bed. Okay, good girl. So go to bed. And you've probably noticed that she's already kind of oriented to her bed anyway. She likes to go there on her own, and especially take toys and things that she wants to lay down and chew on or play with to her bed. But if I send her to her bed on her own, I don't care what position she's in, sitting, standing, or lying down. I just want her to be completely on her bed, and I want her to stay there. It's an implied stay. I want her to stay there until she's released with a verbal release. Okay, good girl. And ultimately, the bed can take the place of the crate, since most people do kind of like to phase out of, oh, hi, good girl. Yeah. Okay. Most people do like to phase out, out of using the crate, you know, after the first year or so. And if you're consistently sending her to her bed and expecting her to stay there, then that becomes essentially as good as a crate. You know, when you've got family around who don't like dogs or whatever, you can just send her to her bed and ask her to stay there. But make sure that you practice that and build that slowly on a daily basis and just work it into your daily routine. An acronym that I teach people is All Good Dogs Fetch Toys. And this is in your training manual, but it stands for attention, gates, doorways, food, and toys. These are 5 things that most people give their dogs naturally several times a day throughout the day anyway. So always ask for obedience before you give those things, because those 5 things are very motivating for a dog. And if you always ask for something, either a come or a sit or a stay or whatever, before they have access to any of those 5 things, then that's really going to go a long ways towards keeping her bond with you as a leader. So that's go to bed. And that's it for the obedience commands. We've done come, sit, stay, down, stay, crate, drop it, watch me, and go to bed. I'm going to talk about her leash walking. Come! Okay, good girl. I'm going to put this bed up. So for the leash walking, what we've done is we've taught attention walking. Let's go. And you want her to maintain this J shape in the leash. Let's go. And to always, and we mark it with an okay, and reward it every time she looks up and makes eye contact, so that she's staying focused on us, and she turns when we turn and stops when we stop. Okay. Good girl. And when I stop, I want her to sit, because that keeps her on task. It gives her a job, and doesn't just leave her loose to get distracted by everything out there, you know. So when you take her home, you know, it's going to be a stressful time for her for the first couple days. So walk her on a leash in your home like this, okay? And come on, let's go. And I really recommend that you leave the leash attached for at least the first couple of weeks. But let her get used to what to expect from you in your home with very few distractions before you take her out and expect a lot outside. But good girl. Just ask her to sit whenever you stop, just like that. And then if she pulls or lunges ahead, just say easy and expect her to put that J shape back in the leash and come back to you. Good girl. So that's attention walking. And just make sure you keep lots and lots of little treats on you. And I don't want to fill her up. I don't want to stuff her with treats, you know. So I break, you know, I'll show you. That's the size of the treat I have. And I actually break something like that in half before I feed her some. But you want to be rewarding consistently and using different kinds of treats all the time, so that she stays interested in you. Otherwise she's going to get bored with you and start looking, okay, good girl, looking for stimulation somewhere else. Okay, good girl. But if you reward several times a minute, every couple of seconds while you're out walking, especially the first little while, that's going to take some diligence on your part to keep up with that, but that is going to keep a very solidly leash-trained dog for you. If you don't, you just walk out willy-nilly and let her do whatever you want, then very, very quickly she's going to learn to pull on a leash, as all dogs do. So that does take some diligence to keep up with on your part, but she's had literally hundreds of hours conditioning that behavior with us, and she's done really, really well at that. So that's what to expect with that. So finally, the house training portion of it. She's been taught to ring a bell. It's just a jingle bell like this on a ribbon that we hang on the door. She's been taught to touch it with her nose to let us know that she needs to go outside. And so the standard that she's been, okay, good girl, expected to hold is that she needs to hold her potty for at least 2 hours, which she's older now, and she can do longer than that, but at least 2 hours during the day without needing a potty break. And for the full 8 to 10 hours at night, and she needs to be reliably and consistently touching the bell to let us know she needs to go outside, which she has been doing. She's done a great job of that. She knows how to do that here with us. She needs to relearn how to do that and understand that that's expected at your house too. And the way to do that is hang the bell on the door that you're going to be taking her out the most often, and set a timer for every 20 or 30 minutes. And every 20 or 30 minutes, whether she needs to go or not, take her to the door, invite her to touch the bell. Don't push her nose into it. Don't bonk her in the nose with it. Don't grab her paw and touch it, or anything like that. Just either wiggle the bell around like you would tease a cat, or tap your fingers by the bell, or tap your fingers on the bell. And if she just ever so slightly touches it with her nose, then say, okay, good girl, get outside. I'll give her a reward since I said the marker. And then take her outside to a specific area to go potty, and leave her potty there, her stools there for a couple of days, and let that area get saturated with her smell. Because if you take her to the same spot every time and she smells her previous stools every time, then that's going to stimulate her body to go every time. Wait for her to go, and then as soon as she's finished, then, you know, mark and reward. Say, okay, good outside. And give her a reward and bring her back in. And I really recommend that you follow that 20 to 30 minute timer rule for the first couple days, not because she's not capable of holding it longer than that, because she is, but she needs to understand that you're going to expect her to communicate with you just like she was expected to communicate with us. And the only way to do that is to go through the repetition with her several times while she's at your home, so she can understand what to expect from you, and she can understand where she's supposed to go and what she's supposed to do. She needs some support with that until she understands what the routine is with you. But once she's figured that out and she's doing it pretty fluidly for you, then you can start lengthening that out and expect her to hold it for 2 hours or more, and just kind of watch her signals. You know, watch what she's doing, and make sure she's consistently communicating to you using the bell and letting you know that she needs to go outside to go potty. Anyway, so that pretty much wraps it up for us. We really enjoyed Hannah. She's been a very, very sweet puppy to work with, and I think she's going to be a joy to your family. So thanks.